Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to rebuild my wind turbine, and it was built for a 12 volt system and this is 24 volts, so it span too fast, it didn't work right. We're going to rebuild it and we're going to do a proper job of it, make it much higher voltage, suited to the system, and we're going to make a control system for it as well. So let's get to work and rebuild a wind turbine. Yeah, basically it's going to be a monster. You start out trying to keep these all in line and all perfect and back and forward and over itself, but it just doesn't work. You just wind it on there basically, just trying to keep an even tension. Before, my old iterations of the wind turbine have been just directly connected to the batteries, which means the wind turbine speed is connected to the battery voltage, which means it doesn't run that efficiently. MPPT is a much better way to go with it, but then you've got issues with not being able to dump load the turbine. Once the batteries are full, nowhere for the energy to go, and therefore that can be problematic. So for this wind turbine, I'm making a special controller for it to my own design. You have to excuse my ridiculous diagram. Okay, Midnight Classic charge controller can do MPPT for wind, but it won't dump load like that without something else attached to it to help it along its way. Just thought I'd address something I know a lot of people are going to ask about, because it's something that I was a bit confused about when I first started messing with wind turbines, is how do you stop the wires twisting up? So there's two options. There's using a slip ring, which I thought about doing on this, but they're not really the best thing to be in exposed environments really. You know, they're a very critical element, and it will break the wind turbine if it fails. And you know, they're set out in the elements. Unless you put it in a really big encased surrounding and stuff, it's going to fail. So the other option is to just let the wires twist, because as the wind turbine faces into the wind, most of the time it's just going to do that. It's just going to turn 180. Because most of the time the wind comes from the same direction. On the odd time that it does change direction, and say you get a northerly wind or whatever, it puts a twist in the wire, and at some point the wind will change back again, and it won't necessarily continue round back on the same route it had. My first version of it I made before I even had this bit of land, so a long time ago. We're going to rebuild it and we're going to do a proper job of it, make it much higher voltage, suited to the system, and we're going to make a control system for it as well. So yeah, I've been working on it now for about 6 months on and off, and it's finally finished. So let's get to work and rebuild a wind turbine. Here's my terminals, 3 phases, 4 coils in each phase. My plan was to get that in 18mm, and which is the size I needed, and make all this out of that. See, there's my resin, and there's just the paint from the particle board. My connections aren't too far away from the surface, so I'm going to get to them. I'm going to end mill in nice and tidy, and I'll be able to get to them. So yeah, sorted. The other thing to note, if anyone's actually using this as a guide on to make one of these things, is the turbine sits backwards a little bit, slight angle. Not actually sure too much why, I just know that you get a slightly better efficiency if they're slightly slanted backwards. As you see, it sits back a little bit. So just a plywood one for now of the right size for those blades. That's that done. So now I'm going to weld a tube on the bottom of our flange plate that I just made, and then that goes onto the turbine's mast, so it's removable, but we're on a nice bearing, sealed bearing, taper rollers. It's going to be really nice, that. I'm having a bit of a hard time filming today because it's so windy, and it's too windy for me to put this up, unfortunately. But it's all mounted, it's all together. Working on this video for so long, over the course of about 6 months, that I ended up losing some of the footage of plasma cutting. So I plasma cut these parts out on my Extreme CNC plasma table, and these are the brackets that hold on the stator. Unless I actually actively switch the solar off, there'd be nowhere to put this power. So I need to address that situation before I put it up, really. There's just too much energy coming in. I plasma cut these parts out on my Extreme CNC plasma table, and these are the brackets that hold on the stator. The magnets on, so they're north south. I know my handwriting, I've made a few mistakes, but it's north south all the way around. Let's imitate the battery voltage gets too high now, and there's nowhere for the power to go, so we shall pretend that that's what's happening. So now any power off the turbine, you see auxiliary 2 is flashing up, and as we get gusts, that element will heat up. If the battery voltage gets up to that voltage we set, it will trigger auxiliary 2, solid state relay kick in, and we'll start heating that heater up again. So that would be a little update to try and fix that. You see we're doing pretty well on the power output. You know, it's doing a kilowatt in small gusts, so it's going to get right up to 1.7 kilowatts, which is the max the charge controller can do. So yeah, really pleased how it turned out. Everything's all gone to plan. It's been filmed over a long period of time, this, so it was quite hard to get the video to work out right, but I'm happy with it. I know it's long, but this is as short as I can make it with getting all the information I needed in it. If I imitate losing auxiliary 1, so that's charge controller failure. So if I turn auxiliary 1 off, so now you heard that click, so now auxiliary 1 is off, so now we've dumped all of the power via the solid state relay, which is, you see the light on the, hang on, Yeah, which is the light on the solid state relay there, and now all of the power is being dumped into the heating coil just there. So if I engage auxiliary 1 again, put it to manual on, so now we're sending power back to the controller. What it won't do though is it won't allow the voltage to get too high as it's doing that. Quickly run through it. You have to excuse my ridiculous diagram. But right, how do we start with this? Okay, Midnight Classic charge controller can do MPPT for wind, but it won't dump load like that without something else attached to it to help it along its way. So once the batteries get full, this won't have anywhere to put the power. But it does have some auxiliary outputs that are designed to control a wind turbine. So auxiliary 2, that's going to output a PWM signal to tell a solid state relay to start putting power through a dump load. Okay, so that's the basic of how it's working. Might try and put in 2 in parallel or something to, if one goes, another one's still there or something like that. But if the batteries then get full, we'll have a problem if I didn't notice it in time. The weak point in this system is that solid state relay, so that would be a little update to try and fix that. Can't get it on the lathe this big unless I take the gap out. I don't really want to do that, so we'll go over this. So we're doing. It's getting a bit dodgy with the end mill because it'll grab, but a little burr shouldn't grab so much. Even if it did, it'll break or bend. So we'll do it like this now. As you can see, the wind has really died down a lot, unfortunately. It has been going overnight, but not that much. So let's have a look. Oh, hang on, where are we? Let's go menu.